Greetings, YouTube. I follow a woman named Rebecca Rogers, both on YouTube and on Instagram. And she made a big name for herself on TikTok, doing short videos, often humorous, sometimes infuriating, about being a teacher in the modern American education system. And she started doing them while she was still a teacher. She was a high school teacher at the time. And some of them are just very funny. Some of them are sweet. And some of them will infuriate you when you see how the parents treat the teachers, how the students treat the teachers, and how the administration treats the teachers. But she has expanded her horizons at this point because she's now a full-time media personality. She's a content creator. This is what she does. She's got millions of followers. Um, and now she talks about other stories that people send her, like people working in retail or the hospitality business and things like that. As well as now she has a podcast. And recently she did a podcast where she talked to a guy named Ben, whose last name ails me. He does TikTok videos about the United States, the actual states themselves. He gives little personalities to each state, and he does conversations with these different states. It's kind of entertaining. And the two of them were doing an interview and talking about comedy. And the topic of women in comedy came up because there are far fewer women in the comedy scenes than there are dudes. And he talked about it and said, if you are in that environment and it's like an open mic night, and a bunch of these folks, they're comedians and they've been doing this for a bit. They're not quite big enough to like get their own venue or something. A steady paying gig, so they're still doing open mics and stuff to get themselves some more splash, get themselves known better by the community at large. Said if you've got that, what you're probably going to have, he said, could be like 15, 20 guys to one or two women. And there is pretty much no chance that in a group of 20 guys, you aren't going to have at least three or four who are goddamn predators. And they will prey on those women. And sadly, thanks to toxic masculinity and the patriarchy, most of the rest of those guys aren't going to do a goddamn thing about it. They're just going to turn a blind eye to it, like they've turned a blind eye to every toxic thing that they've ever seen a man do or say, or every joke they made. Because the whole bro code bullshit has taught them that you don't question what another guy does in his pursuit of women. Doesn't matter if what they're doing is creepy. Doesn't matter what they're doing is technically illegal or an outright assault of some kind. You'd ignore it because on some level, I think some of these guys hope that when they get the chance, that other guys will help support them in their pursuit of women. It's very warped and twisted, and it's all coming from the idea of toxic masculinity, the patriarchy, a complete lack of understanding of proper sex education, consent. It's it's a huge ball of crap. And one of the ways you disassemble that, of course, is being an intersectional feminist, a phrase that is considered an expletive amongst many men in the world today. I've had someone speak to me directly and disgusted at the fact that I would admit to that I am a uh, I strive to be an intersectional feminist, that I've bought into that, that liberal BS, yada, 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 yada. And I can tell you right now that it was amazing how fast it took me to block his ass from ever being on my channel again. I don't need that bullshit on my channel. So if you're coming to my channel to spew that crap, you're gone. I don't care if you've been here from day one. I actually don't know who my first subscriber was. I wish I did. I don't remember. But I don't care how long you've been here. If you're going to be a misogynist, a sexist, if you're going to support toxic masculinity in how women are preyed upon like animals by groups of men, some who are actively pursuing and some who are just passively supporting them, you are an absolute failure of a human. You are morally and ethically bankrupt. And maybe no one's ever told you that. Maybe you've never faced that ugly reality. But if you're not there to make sure that everyone gets treated equally, that the people who are being targeted get the protections they need, get the ability to get out of that space. But better yet, have a space where they can be who they want to be without fear of being preyed upon. It's not that women aren't funny. It's that women are marginalized and targeted and shoved out of those spaces for fear of their lives. And that's terrifying. But it's also the living, breathing background radiation that women have been putting up with forever. Most dudes don't know that. I know how shocked I was when I discovered from the women I am intimate with, as in friends and my partner and things like that, when they began to reveal to me what it is like to be a woman in America, that the stress they are under, the constant vigilance they are under. I saw something recently where a woman said, "What would you do if all men were gone for 24 hours?" And the women listed all these different things that they would go out and do. And some guy chimed in. Of course, he had to. He had to be devil's advocate bullshit. He says, "Well, who would protect you?" And some woman said, "From who?" Which pretty much summed up everything for me. Because the ones who say that women need men to protect them are saying women need to be protected from other men. They know this. They aren't willing to admit it, and they aren't willing to help to dismantle the system that makes that statement true. But they know it. And all those guys out there that, they're trying to plausible deniability about when it comes to innuendos and, putting their hand on a woman's back when they're trying to get by, they don't do that with guys. So if they don't need to do it with guys, you don't need to do it with women. It's really that simple. If you wouldn't say or do something to a fellow heterosexual cisgender man, then don't do it to a woman. It, it's not complex. And yet it seems to mystify men that they have the capacity to not be assholes.